Nelson Mandela said, "A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. A winner is a dreamer who never gives up." A very warm welcome to you all, our dear friends. My name is Isaac Lakhi. Most people find my name fascinating, Isaac Lakhi. So to give you the etymology behind my name, Isaac was the son of Abraham, and one of Isaac's characteristics was that he was a man who used to like to laugh a lot. As for my surname Lakhi, that is spelled Lakhi, if you take the I out of lucky, what do you get? Yeah, you get lakh. And lakh is an informal currency that is used in parts of Asia to denote 100,000. So if somebody were to say to you, "I'll pay you 7 lakh or something," it means I would pay you 700,000. Or if they were to say to you, "I'll pay you 70 lakh or something," it means I would pay you 7 million. So hopefully we're going to have a couple of good laughs on our way to becoming multi-million lakhs. Friends, today I'd like to speak to you about just 3 things. One is the power of money, then we're going to talk about the power of faith, and then we're going to talk about the weekend of 3 miracles, and thereafter we're going to join the dots for you. Now, when Nelson Mandela said a winner is a dreamer who never gives up, we don't think that Mandela had any inclination as to how prolific and profound that proverbial statement will be and the impact that it will have on my life. You see, after graduating from high school at the end of 1993 as Student of the Year, I went on to become a chartered accountant, and this was in 1994 when Nelson Mandela became the president of the First Democratic South Africa. And a few months into the course, I realized that it wasn't for me, so I dropped out of university and went on to start my first business, manufacturing detergents. And in 4 years, by January 1998, this business had grown quite handsomely to the extent that we were employing 30 people in the business and spending a few multi-million lakh in annual revenues. And then one day, while traveling back from Durban, which is a beautiful coastal city nestled on the warm waters of the Indian Ocean that is tucked in the southeastern corner of South Africa, I was traveling back to Johannesburg, which is about 400 miles or 560 kilometers north of Durban. And Johannesburg is the financial capital of South Africa and also of Africa. And here I was in my iconic BMW M3 sports car, and I was on the M3 super freeway, and my life was in 6th gear. The business was in 6th gear, and my car was quite literally in 6th gear. And what was to happen next would forever change the face and the outcome of my life. While I was soaked in ego, on that beautiful, warm, sunny African afternoon, I was involved in a horrendous car crash. Cops found me on the side of the road in a coma, and they airlifted me to a big hospital in Johannesburg. And that evening, as I was wheeled off the chopper into the emergency room, doctors said to my wife that it was unlikely that I would survive that crash. And even if I did, there was a high probability that I would end up with a brain disability or brain injuries or a paralysis or stroke. But the human spirit, our dear friends, it's an amazing thing, for it is blessed with resilience, fortitude, and tenacity. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, I woke up from this coma while in intensive care, and I recall a specific incident when I was wheeled off to the doctor's consulting rooms. And here I was sitting in a wheelchair in the doctor's consulting room, and I saw a couple of doctors congregate behind the scenes, and I wondered what was so top secret and coveted that they had spoken in this hushed tones. And then they sat me down around a table, and here there was a neurologist, a neurosurgeon, and a neuropsychologist. And what they were about to say would forever change my life. They said to me, "Mr. Lakhi, wait for this, Mr. Lakhi, we believe that you've ended up with an 80% brain disability." Imagine that, friends. At the age of 22, I felt that I was relegated from hero to zero overnight. I mean, I was angry with these doctors for the diagnosis that they had given me that I felt was scandalous, frivolous, and vexatious. And from there, my life just sank into a a bottomless abyss that featured an uncertain future. Now, fast forward 5 years later, this was in 2003. This was after we had lost the business that went through the window, the properties went through the window, the cars went through the window, and even my beloved ego went through the window. My wife Zinni, who was the only person left standing, she really wanted me to get better. And on the occasion of my 27th birthday in September 2003, she whisked me off to Cape Town. Now, Cape Town, friends, it's a beautiful city that is consistently and regularly rated as one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And Cape Town is tucked on the southwestern part of South Africa and is nestled on the Atlantic Ocean. And so here we're walking on a beautiful afternoon in September 2003, and we waltz into the posh Cape Sun Intercontinental, and we realized that they had made an error with our booking. So we called for the general manager, and he wasn't in, but out comes his PA, a diamond of a lady by the name of Moira Sinclair. So we explained the problem to her, and she said, "Don't worry, Isaac, it's sorted." So the porter whisks us off to the elevator, and we get off on the top floor, on the 32nd floor. And as we walk into our room, I can already see that something already is amiss. I mean, the carpets are like half a meter thick, and the decor is super plush, and I only count 6 doors. And I say to myself, for a hotel that has almost 400 rooms, it's mathematically impossible to have only 6 doors on a floor. And then the porter opens up the door, and in front of us I see the most magnificent, grandiose and magnanimous hotel room that I've ever seen in my life. Moira Sinclair, in her abundant kindness, had just upgraded us to the presidential suite. I mean, kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers and directors of companies had stayed in this hotel room. I mean, it featured every conceivable luxury. There was a lounge and a dining room and a kitchen and a jacuzzi, and there were so many curtains in the room that at the age of 27, Zinni and I used to play hide and seek, and it would take me a good 5 minutes before I would find my best friend Zinni in the room. So this is Friday afternoon. So I got up on Sunday morning to pray and to meditate 90 minutes before sunrise, as I usually do. And as I woke up from this deep slumber of meditation, my gaze automatically fell on my beloved wife Zinni, who was lying like a queen on that king-size bed. And at that moment, I was overtaken by this intense emotion, because I felt that when that car crash happened, Zinni and I had only been married for 5 weeks. And had I died in that car crash, the tenure of Zinni's mourning would be longer than the tenure of Zinni's wedding. And despite this, the one CEO of the universe, in his abundant mercy, wisdom, and kindness, he had put Zinni there as an anchor and as a safety net and as a cushion to help me to navigate my way back onto my feet. And that, our dear friends, had to be a miracle. And then as I looked around in this palatial room that was more reminiscent of a ballroom in a palace, I thought to myself that the CEO of the universe was speaking to me. And he was probably saying to me that, "Look, Isaac, it's now time to give up crying like a little child about your condition. You're young still, you're only 27 years old. It's now time to get back onto your feet and to assert your position in the universe. And now you're not just 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, but you are one of 7.7 billion people on the planet. And even though you're one of 7.7 billion people on the planet, you matter to me, and that you're important to me, and that I want you to succeed." And that, our dear friends, had to be a miracle. Miracle number 2. And then as I opened up the windows and the curtains, I took in the most magnanimous and beautiful and picturesque sunrise that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there in the horizon were the most beautiful pastel shades that included pinks and blues and lavenders and purples. And then I saw birds flying in formation, and then my gaze became fixated on Robben Island. Now, Robben Island is a prison that is situated just off the shores of Cape Town, very similar to the rock at Alcatraz, situated off the shores of San Francisco. And Robben Island was home to some of the most illustrious, noble, and valiant statesmen of the 20th century. And these included Nelson Mandela, Ahmed Kathrada, Muhammad Haji, and others. And these valiant men, they fought for the liberation and the emancipation and the freedom of South Africa from the tyrannical and repugnant and repulsive apartheid regime. Now, apartheid was a framework of governance that sought to incarcerate the majority of the people at the expense and for the benefit of an exclusive white male minority. Now, some of the ills of apartheid, by way of an example, was that a brown man like me, I couldn't sit next to a white person on a bench in a park. Another would be the best of jobs, be it in the banks or the insurance companies and the gold and the diamond and the platinum mines or in the government. These were all reserved for the select white male minority. Another would be a brown man like me. I couldn't get married to a white person, and if I did, I would end up in jail for transgressing the Immorality Act. Unfortunately, this reprehensible, repugnant, and repulsive sense of political justice, as they called it, it came to an end in February 1990 when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and 4 years later, in April 1994, the same year when I went to university to become a chartered accountant, Nelson Mandela became the first president of the democratic South Africa. And here I was 9 years later, our dear friends, standing in this palatial room, crying about my condition. And I thought to myself that if Mandela and Kathrada and Haji and others were looking at me, they would feel so embarrassed at me, because they would probably say to themselves, that what is it that we fought for? Today, Isaac can go as high as he wants to, and it's only his mind that could potentially limit him as to how far he can go. And at that juncture, friends, I made a bold proclamation, promise, and an oath to myself that today is the day when things change. Today is the day when I say no more. No more to being banal. No more to being average. No more to being mediocre. And I said to myself, today is the day when I'm going to take leadership and accountability and responsibility for my life. So 24 hours later, Zini and I, we found ourselves back in our hometown of Johannesburg. And when we looked at our lives, how do we get back on track? Because even though our lives had come to an abrupt halt, the world had continued running as normal. And we found solace and inspiration in Confucius's beautiful saying when he said that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And what we didn't realize, our dear friends, was that we had taken the single most important and critical step to a better life in Cape Town that was quite literally 1,000 kilometers away from our hometown of Johannesburg. And that, our dear friends, had to be a miracle. Miracle number 3. So, what the car crash meant, friends, was within a short space of time, every conceivable pillar of our life was tested, from business and finance and money to relationships and health. But had we stayed immersed on that island of darkness that was embedded, engulfed, and enveloped in an ocean of light and love and opportunity, do you think we would have tasted the sweetness of opportunities that were about to come our way? That all of a sudden it was no longer the end, but merely a bend. That when we changed the way we looked at things, the things that we looked at changed. So maybe, our dear friends, like us, you've lost your beloved mother to COVID, or your dad, or your business, or your health, or your job, or your career. And we know what's it like, friends, seeing your wife sleep in a chair and your child on a coffee table because you're too broke to afford to put beds into your home. But we're here to say to you, our dear friends, that never is a person struck by hardship mental grief, and even worry that it does not serve as a cancellation for our deeds on account of our patience. The trials and tribulations are a natural feature and function of life. But what separates the winners and the champions from everybody else is that winners refuse to give up. We refuse to surrender. That when we fall and fail, it makes us restless. And we use those energies of restlessness and to transform it into becoming relentless so that it can catapult us onto a different stratosphere so that we can try and keep trying and never stop trying until we give up. And while most people like to read history, we, like Nelson Mandela and Ahmed Kathrada, choose to write our very own history. Come on, our dear friends. You're here today because you want to be here. Let's salute your struggles and the trials and the tribulations that you've been through and lift the energy and give yourself a warm round of applause. Now, 5 years later, in 2007, after Zinni and I had turned this entire ship around, what it transpired is that a lot of our, and we had reached a point of financial wellness, a lot of our friends and family and colleagues, they came to us and they said, yeah, but Isaac, tell us how is it that you did this, right? What did you do to get yourself back onto the road to financial wellness? Clearly, it must have been as a certified banker dealing in complex financial instruments like FX and derivatives and swaps. And we said to them it had nothing to do with that. On the contrary, it had everything to do with our upbringing. You see, friends, I come from a family of serial entrepreneurs, uncles that took money very seriously, that wealth was measured by money. Success was measured by money. Money was not everything. It was the only thing. Now, one of my uncles, Uncle Z, he was an entrepreneurial genius. At the age of 18, when he graduated from high school, he bought a food franchise. And by 22, he made his first million. And then by 23, he sold the franchise along with the string of supermarkets that he had started in that 5 years. And with this cash that he set on, he entered the cookie manufacturing game. Now, at that time, the biscuit or the cookie manufacturing game, this was in the late 80s, it was dominated by a couple of heavyweights, and they were making and selling cookies and selling it to the top end of the market. In other words, so rich people. So when he looked at this business, he said to himself, how do I differentiate myself from my peers? So instead of putting his cookies into 100-gram boxes, he put it instead into 5-kilogram bags. And he stripped it of all the nutrition, or of all the bells and whistles like coconut and raisins and chocolate, and instead he infused it with nutritional content so that a girl child could enjoy his cookies during her lunch break and then continue solidifying and fortifying and strengthening her mind while at school and gaining a meaningful education. And then, unlike his competitors who were selling their trucks to big chain stores and were waiting for half a day just to deliver 100 cases at a time, what he did was that he tapped into businesses with big distribution networks. And instead of selling 100 cases at a time, he was selling 100 containers at a time. To the extent that by the age of 30, he had sold his business for 160 million bucks. Imagine that at the age of 30, he sold and he exited for 160 million bucks. Now ask yourself, what can I do with 160 million bucks? For one, he could have bought 32 mansions in Beverly Hills, or he could have bought 533 California spiders, or he could have flown 8,000 times around the world in a first-class seat. And herein, friends, lies the 10th rule of money, and that is the law of differentiation. And what the law of differentiation says is that whatever you do, you've got to differentiate yourself in business. You've got to be a rainmaker. You've got to be a trailblazer. You've got to be an innovator and a maverick. That when your competitors and peers and suppliers and customers and financiers look at you, they've got to identify you as being that game changer. Now, the first rule of money is the law of 10%. And what the law of 10% says is that 10% of what I make is mine to keep. 10% of what I make is mine to keep. Let's say that together in unison, friends. 10% of what I make is mine to keep. Now, whether you're a doctor or a physician or even a magician or a junior selling lemonade at school, what the law of 10% says is that whatever you make, you've got to put away 10% of your income. Now, we've got students that are doing 15 and 20 and 25%, and that's what they're putting away every month. But if you can do more than 10, always do so, but never ever do less than 10%. Now, I know that some of you may be saying, yeah, but Isaac, times are tough. You know, I'm struggling to even put away 5%, or I'm not putting away anything at all. But think about it this way, our friends, that if you're always broke, okay, say you're earning 100 grand, be it $100,000 or sterling or rands or ringgits or rupees, wherever you are in the world, and you're putting away 15% of your income. So 15% of 100 grand is 15 grand. Now let's say in year 2 you get a raise of 5% and your money from year 1 grows by another 5%. That means that in year 2 you would have saved up almost 20 grand. Now take the 15 grand from year 1 and 20 grand from year 2. That means you've got 35,000. Now ask yourself, if you're always broke, what is the prospect of having 35 grand in your bank account do for you? And my good friend Robin Banks, who is a global authority on mind power, he always says to me that any thought that is emotionalized becomes magnetized and attracts similar like thoughts. Any thought that is emotionalized becomes magnetized and attracts similar like thoughts. So see your 10% as gold, friends. That you keep on putting that gold into a bag, and every 6 months you've got to either buy another bag or you've got to buy more bags in order to put your gold in. How does it make you feel? Remember that any thought that is emotionalized becomes magnetized and attracts similar like thoughts. Now, by 2013, this was 5 years later, I had decided to change gears from my career as a certified banker working as a salaried employee in a bank to that of a certified financial planner, which was my backup career, which would entail setting up my own financial planning practice, which was really running my own business. And in 5 years, towards the end of 2017, that business had also grown quite handsomely. And then one day, out of the blue, I received a call from the sales head at one of the big asset managers that we wrote good volumes of business for. And in that meeting, he told me about the legislative changes that were sweeping South Africa and how it would impact upon my back pocket. So by way of an example, let's say that you wanted to save $1,000 a month, again, be it in dollars or euros or ringgits or rupees or rands. And so you want to invest $1,000 a month and put that into an annuity for your retirement. So with the old laws, what it meant was that in the past we would receive 8 grand in commission, 4,000 upfront, and the balance of 4 grand over 5 years. But what the new laws meant is that we would receive only, or I would receive only a lousy $133 for doing the same amount of work. So naturally, this left me a little concerned and livid also. So that evening before driving home, I found the financial services board and other banks and insurance companies that I had contracts with to certify, confirm, and corroborate that information. And not only did they validate it, they said to me, Isaac, you've got 90 days in which to align with these new laws. Imagine that, 90 days in which you align with these new laws. So that evening, Zina and I, we mulled over the choices. The one option that we had was that I could stay in financial services, but I would have to work twice as hard to earn half the money. And that didn't make sense. The second option was that I could go back to working as a salaried employee in a bank. And that option looked quite lucrative to us because I had kept all my networks alive. So it just meant that after a few telephone calls and emails and conversations with a few of those networks, I would find myself back working again in a bank. But then that evening while trying to sleep, I realized that if I had taken that option number 2, I would effectively be mortgaging my and my family's financial future. And instead of upgrading our conviction to suit our destiny, I would be downgrading our dreams to suit our destiny or reality. Once again, instead of upgrading our conviction to match our destiny, I would be downgrading our dreams to suit our reality. And that didn't make sense to me. So the next morning, as the sun moved from behind the curtain of darkness and beamed its rays of light, love, and possibility into our home, Zinni and I realized that we needed to come up with a third option, and we needed to do so quickly. So by that time, we had already developed this personal development business, Lakh Global, that we're speaking about today. And we realized that in order to scale this business up, we would have to move it to a country or to an economic region where there was a boom going on so that we could ride the crest of the wave. Now, 18 months before that, this was around the middle of 2016, one day I received a call from our chairman at the board of directors of Rise Against Hunger, and our chairman asked me whether I could represent the South African board in Malaysia on the occasion of Mandela Week. Now, before we continue, Rise Against Hunger is a global philanthropy and a non-profit organization that was founded in the US, and our aim there is to pack food in order to fill the bellies of hungry and orphaned school children. And every year we pack more than 10 million meals a year. And since our inception in 1998, we've packed over 500 million meals. And Rise Against Hunger, we've got chapters in addition to the US, we have chapters or branches in South Africa, in Italy, in India, in the Philippines, and obviously in Malaysia as well. And what Mandela Week is a global campaign that seeks to celebrate the amazing and the extraordinary life of this trailblazer and this waymaker. And it usually, what it entails is that mere mortals, ordinary people like you and me, we give 67 minutes of our time to noteworthy causes like packing food for hungry school children. And this starts on around the 15th of July and culminates on festivities on the 18th of July, which was Mandela's birthday. So naturally, I accepted our chairman's invitation, and before I knew it, Zinni and our sons, Doctor and Mr. Chairman and I, we found ourselves in Kuala Lumpur, which is the world's 8th most visited city. And that week, I tell you, our dear friends, in 2016 was an absolute highlight of our week, or rather of our calendar 2016. I mean, the people and the food and the climate, it all resonated so beautifully with us that little did we know that the one CEO of the universe, in his abundant mercy, wisdom, and kindness, he was giving us a sneak preview into what our lives would look like in 18 months' time when Day Zero arrived in South Africa. Now, back to the current day, and this was towards the end of 2017, where Zinni and I had to make a decision based on our three choices. The one was that I could stay in financial services only to work twice as hard to earn half the money. The second option was that I could go back to working in a bank as a salaried employee. Or the third was that we could go forward in the pursuit of our goals, dreams, and objectives. And we could take the road that was less frequently traveled. So which one do you think that we took, our dear friends? Yeah, you've guessed it. We took the third option, and that is to go forward in the pursuit of our goals, dreams, and objectives. So within 24 hours after receiving the funds or from the sale of one of our properties that we used to fund our expedition in Southeast Asia, Zinni and I found ourselves, and the boys, we found ourselves in Kuala Lumpur. And while on our way to KL, we found ourselves on a magnificent Qatar Airways Boeing 777 aircraft. And I tell you, our friends, the food and the in-flight entertainment and the service on this flight was unrivaled. And then as we transited Hamad International Airport in Doha, which was voted the best airport in the world in 2018 or 2019, we tried to envision what our life would be like living in the crown jewel of Southeast Asia, which is Malaysia. And the next few weeks and months were the absolute highlight and the best of our lives. For one, Zinni and I celebrated the occasion of our 20th wedding anniversary atop a revolving restaurant at the Federal Hotel in downtown KL. And while taking in and enjoying the prawns and the shrimps and the oysters and the caviar, we took in the expensive and the panoramic views of the Petronas Twin Towers, which 20 years after it was constructed, is still the world's tallest twin towers. And then 2 hours later, after this floor had rotated by 180 degrees, and while feasting on the sumptuous pudding, we took in the expansive again and the panoramic views of Merdeka Tower, which is the tallest tower in Southeast Asia. And then the day thereafter, we got onto a luxury bus and we made our way to Johor Bahru, which is a beautiful city located in the southern part of Malaysia on the Singapore border, where we enjoyed them and had the most wonderful aquatic experiences at Legoland Water Park. And then the day after, we got into an Uber and crossed over the border into Singapore, where we had the most adrenaline pumping, awe-inspiring and the thrilling rides on Puss in Boots and Galactica and Transformers at Universal Studios. And then the day thereafter, we found ourselves on a hop-on-hop-off bus touring the boulevards of Singapore. And while listening to the commentary on how Singapore had transformed itself into this amazing and this iconic city in a short space of time, our minds started to entertain a negative cycle of thoughts. Thoughts such as, what would happen if the business didn't scale? We end up being like the 85% of businesses that didn't make it beyond month 24, or the 96% of businesses that didn't survive their 10th anniversary. Or would we end up like homeless, like the man we saw sitting on the stairs where we commute at the train station, where we commuted between our condo and the office? I mean, what was his condition like? How did he end up like that? Was he also once upon a time an entrepreneur, I thought? Or would we have to go back to South Africa only to be criticized, ostracized and marginalized by the same naysayers and doomsayers that told us not to take this risk? But our dear friends, while we were trapped in this echo chamber of negativity, all these thoughts, these doubts, they were interrupted by an announcement by the bus driver who told us that the tour had come to an end. But I tell you, our dear friends, there is no similarity whatsoever between poverty and wealth. The two are mutually exclusive. They travel in opposite directions. For the seeds of wealth to germinate in abundance in our minds, we need to assassinate all thoughts of poverty. Let me repeat that. For the seeds of wealth to germinate in abundance in our minds, we need to assassinate all thoughts of poverty. That if you come with us on the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework, be it on our inspiring books and audios, or our life-altering workshop, or our award-winning coaching and mentoring sessions, or if you listen to our blogs and read our blogs, we will give you a framework that if you follow, you will become successful. So that evening, as Zinni and our boys, Mr. Chairman and I, we got onto a luxury charter from Singapore to get back to KL, I realized that instead of being trapped and being paralyzed by fear, it would be more beneficial and productive to be inspired by hope. And my mind went back to Nelson Mandela's beautiful and timeless and prolific words when he said, "A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. A winner is a dreamer who never gives up." And at that juncture, our dear friends, I set a bold and a lofty goal and an objective, and that is to become the world's #1 motivational speaker. Now, while we want this inspiring journey and this lofty quest of setting these inspiring and these lofty goals to become the world's #1 motivational speaker, a little voice started rambling on indefinitely with meaningless mumbo-jumbo in my head, saying things like, "Who do you think you are to call yourself the world's #1 motivational speaker? I mean, haven't you heard of Abraham and Moses and Isaac? Haven't you heard of Mandela and Katrina and Balkia?" But our dear friends, when we set that lofty goal and an objective to become the world's #1 motivational speaker, I neither did so in an egoic nor in a competitive way. On the contrary, I did so in a cooperative way, in my desire to be better today than I was yesterday, and to be better tomorrow than I am today. And when I set that lofty goal to be the world's #1 speaker, it's not to be the #1 speaker in my life, but rather in your life. That when you have a difficulty and a challenge, that Isaac Lakhi is going to be foremost in your mind, and you're going to reach out to us. And at that juncture, I recognized, realized, and discerned that it may be a good idea to embed, engulf, and envelop our goals, dreams, and objectives in a definitive, deliberate, and intentional prayer. Because when our goals are clearly distilled, prayer is readily fulfilled. Let me repeat that. When our goals are clearly distilled, prayer is readily fulfilled. Now, prayer is a profound thing, our dear friends. Prayer has got the ability, the propensity, and the capability to change the face and the outcome of our lives. Prayer is a potent weapon that can accelerate the achievement of our goals, dreams, and objectives. Now, let me share with you just 2 examples of how the power of faith and prayer changed my life. Now, one day in 2012, one evening, I was evaluating the performance of our investments that were being funded using the law of 10%. And at the time, we were saving 12% of our monthly income, and we wanted to get that up to 17%. But when we looked at our bank statements, we realized that a lot of our money, our cash flow, was being eroded by servicing stupid things like paying for credit cards and personal loans and overdrafts and paying for our cars. So we set a lofty goal and an objective to become short-term debt-free within a space of 6 months. But I tell you, we did it not in 6, we did it in 5. I know that some of you are probably saying, yeah, Isaac, tell us how you did that, right? So we did that by doing this. A few weeks later, I was at work and the cell phone rang. The caller ID showed that Zinni was calling. But instead of expecting her usual buoyant optimism, the voice on the other side said that, look, Zinni and our son's doctor and Mr. Chairman were involved in a car crash, and I needed to get to the hospital as soon as possible. So naturally, I did that, and then 24 hours later, they were discharged from hospital. And then when we debriefed, we realized that the accident wasn't as severe as we thought. It was just a whole lot of cuts and bruises, but it was all exacerbated by the shock of the accident. But then a few days later, the insurance company called and they said to me, Mr. Lakhi, we need to write this car off. And I said to them, why? I don't understand. I mean, the damage was marginal. It was just the back of the car. It was just a case of replacing the rear bumper and panel beating and spray painting the car. And they said, look, it's not worth repairing. So they wrote the car off. So that left me a little bit concerned and livid, because at the beginning of the year, I bought a new car that cost a little bit more on the strength that towards the end of that year, Zinni's car would be paid off and I can use the bucks from Zinni's car to put it into my car. But what this meant was that it would be back to a case of square one, where I would be paying 2 cars off. But then a few days later, I got a text message from the bank saying the insurance company had deposited the funds for that car into my bank account. So with that proceeds, I used it in order to settle my car. So all of a sudden, things weren't looking too bad. I mean, the main thing was that Zinni and Dr. and Mr. Chairman were okay. They didn't get hurt in that accident. And secondly, my car was paid off. And then a few weeks later, on a beautiful, again, September sunny African afternoon, we received delivery of Zinni's car. And as the salesman was leaving our home, a diamond of a man by the name of Sean Nodier, he turned around and he said to me very casually, oh yes, Mr. Lakhi, I forgot to mention that if you buy this brand of car, which is a Hyundai, and if you finance it in this month, which is September, your name goes into a draw in order to win the car back in cash. In other words, we will settle the bank on your behalf. So I listened to this, I just laughed. I mean, my surname is Lakhi, it's not Lucky. So a few weeks later, we were out on a Saturday morning on a weekend run, and as luck would have it, Mr. Chairman Doctor needed the loo, so Mr. Chairman took him to the loo, and we stopped at this posh hotel, and Zinni and I, we lounged at the pool, and we ordered coffees and milkshakes, and then guess what? The cell phone rings, and who's on the phone? Yeah, you guessed it. It's Sean Nodier, and he's ecstatic. euphoric, and over the moon as he says, "Congratulations, Mr. Lakhi, you've just won the car." So, here in our dear friends lies the first rule of faith, and that is we've got to know what it is that we want from life. So I challenge you to go and stand under a waterfall or underneath a mountain or on the beach for a few days and ask yourself, what is it that you want from your life? Now, once you've worked out what it is that you want from your life, the next step is to document it. Put everything down in writing. And then put it onto your laptop, onto your tablet, onto your smartphone, and and see yourself and start memorizing it, internalize it, and start seeing yourself receiving it. Every morning at 10 minutes before waking up, picture this goal, see yourself receiving it, and do the same every evening. Because when our hearts truly believe, there is no limit to what the one CEO of the universe will help us achieve that is far beyond what our minds can conceive. Once again, when our hearts truly believe, there is no limit to what the one CEO of the universe will help us achieve that is far beyond what our minds can conceive. Now, have you ever wanted one thing in your life, our dear friends, and instead you received something else? Yeah, it's happened to all of us at some time or another in our lives, right? Now, as I approached the occasion of my 40th birthday, I really wanted a Ferrari. And we even went to a Ferrari dealership and I had a look at the 458 Italia in the California in the Spider. And actually, I put that on my list of things to pray for. And as my 40th birthday arrived, my prayer was indeed accepted. But instead of getting the red one, or the Ferrari as you can see on the screen, I got the green one, or a bicycle. And when this bicycle arrived, I didn't know whether I should be livid and annoyed or ecstatic and euphoric. But herein lies the second rule of faith, and that is we've got to be patient, engulfed in the understanding that everything in the universe happens at its appointed time, and that sometimes we get what we need and not necessarily what we want. Because what that bicycle meant, friends, is that a few weeks later I went for my annual medical to the doctor, and he said to me, just as well as I had taken to cycling, because if I didn't, what would have happened was that I became a ripe candidate for heart attack because my cholesterol levels had gone off the charts. Imagine that. Now sometimes, friends, we have our students come to us and they say, yeah, Isaac, I understand. We understand this concept of faith and believing. But can you share with us a prayer that will inspire us with motivation and with vigor and energy and vitality? So what we've done is that we've taken the highlights from the award-winning, awe-inspiring, and life-altering Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework, and we've integrated it and incorporated it into what we call the prayer of Isaac Lakhi. So we'd like to share it with you, and it goes like this. O CEO of the universe, help us to say words of truth in the face of the mighty, and to refrain from speaking ill in order to gain the applause of the weak. And let us not accuse our adversaries of treachery because their opinions oppose ours. O CEO of the universe, should you give us wealth, do not take away our happiness, and should you give us might, do not take away our wisdom. And should you give us abundant money, let us always make money our slave and never our master. Instead of chasing after sustenance, help us pursue excellence. Help us to go after our passion, enveloped in the understanding that where passion goes, money automatically flows. Cause us to be inspired by reading the history of others that will motivate us to write our own history. O CEO of the universe, should you take away our wealth, do let us keep our hopefulness, and should we fail, do let us keep the power of determination. to see your test as a pen and not the end. Because when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at will change. Remind us always that failure is a trial that precedes success. That failure is not the opposite of success, but that it is part of it, and that we should never lower our dreams, and that we should never ever stop trying until we win. Instead of lowering our dreams to suit our reality, inspire us to lift our convictions to match our destiny. O one CEO of the universe, should you take away the blessing of good health, do let us keep the blessing of faith. Should we have harmed others, grant us the courage to apologize. And should others harm us, do bless us with the courage to forgive. Grant us a persistence away of mountains as we journey through life, leveraging the ore from our minds and the currency from our minds. Grant us a heart that is a magnet for good, and as a repository for good, and a heart that is a conduit that reflects your light through. O one CEO of the universe, let our prayers always be definitive, deliberate, and intentional, anchored with faith. Help us to be patient and confident in the understanding that everything in the universe happens at its appointed time. Because you give us what we need, not necessarily what we want. Remind us that when our hearts truly believe, there is no limit to what you will help us achieve. It is far beyond what our minds can conceive. Amen. Our dear friends, as promised, we've spoken about the weekend of 3 miracles, we've spoken about the power of money, and we've spoken about the power of faith. It's now time to join the dots for you. Now, before we continue, and for those of you whose minds are still fixated on the prayer of Isaac Lakhi, and you're wondering, where did I hear that song that featured in the prayer of Isaac Lakhi? That song was made in 2015 by a diamond of an artist by the name of John Dreamer. Now we've got a question to ask of you. What has changed in your life in the 5 years since Dreamer made that song? Do you know what your problems are, friends? If so, when are you going to solve those problems? What do you need more of in order to solve those problems? Do you need more time? Do you need more money? Do you need more energy? Do you need better relationships? Now, wouldn't it be nice to go to a go-to guy, somebody who's been through the mill, who can take you from where you are to where you would like to be? What would you do if we told you that we've developed an award-winning, awe-inspiring, and life-altering solution that is technical, easy to understand, and easy to implement, and is not rocket science? A solution is going to take you from where you are to where you want to be, from heedlessness to wakefulness, from ordinary to extraordinary, and from working class to world class. What would you say, our dear friends? So we'd like to introduce you to the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop. Now, to explain to you what the My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop is, it's best to first tell you what it's not. Now, with most solutions out there on the market, and there's some phenomenal solutions out there, the problem is that it only focuses on one area of your life, be it share investing, or foreign exchange, or crypto, or weight loss, or relationships. Now, while this is great, what it does is that it creates an imbalance in other parts of your life. So think of this as a table. How many pillars does a table need to stand on? Yeah, it needs 4 pillars or 4 legs. And what happens if one of the pillars falls down? The table won't stand properly, and it will prejudice the other parts of the table to the extent that the other 3 pillars are going to have to work harder, and eventually the entire table will collapse, right? So what the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop is an amazing 360 program that is built on the 4 masteries of success. And that is money mastery, relationship mastery, mind mastery, and personal mastery. And ultimately, the objective of the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop is to help you live a more meaningful, measurable, and sustainable life. Now, in the first mastery, which is money mastery, what we're going to do is that we're going to share with you the 10 rules of money. Now, earlier we've spoken about rule number 10, which is the law of differentiation. And we've also spoken about in the law of 10%. And in the law of 10%, you recall, we asked a question that what happens if you saved up 35,000 after 2 years? What then? So you can use 30 grand to go and buy a condo that costs you 300 grand. So you would give the developer or the bank a deposit of 10%, and then with the balance you can finance it. And then with the balance of your 5 grand, what you can do is that you can pay a conveyancer the fees in order to transfer the property into your name if it's not already included in the purchase price, or you can make additions and enhancements to the property, or you can put furniture into the property so that you can command a higher yield or a higher rental. And if you do this every 2 years, in the space of 10 years, you would have amassed 5 properties, and in the space of 20 years, you would have amassed 10 properties. Now imagine that you're 35 years old, and now fast forward 20 years later, you're listening to the same talk, nothing has changed, except that you're a little bit grayer. But the most important thing is that you have 10 properties in which you're collecting rental income from. How does that make you feel? So remember, any thought that is emotionalized becomes magnetized and attracts similar like thoughts. So in addition to the law of differentiation and the law of 10%, we're going to share with you the other 8 rules of money on how to protect, grow, and differentiate your money. Now, in the next mastery of success, which is personal mastery, have you ever found yourself in a position whereby you notice 2 people and both of them have got similar access to resources like acumen and opportunities and capital, yet one will get so much more out of life than another? So in the personal mastery pillar, which is our power pillar, we're going to share with you the tools on how to accelerate your life, your success through life. So this was born after we studied our tribe of serial entrepreneur uncles and also the dozens of additional entrepreneurs that we studied. So we're going to teach you things like power happiness, and we're going to show you, we know that a lot of people are struggling with loneliness. So we're going to share the 4 techniques on how to achieve, on how to overcome loneliness and how to transform this loneliness into happiness. But happiness, friends, is not a destination, it's a journey. So once you reach the mountaintop of your desires, we're going to share with you the additional 3 techniques to use in order to remain sustainably happy. And then we're going to share with you power fasting and how we, by leveraging the power of power fasting, we're going to enjoy the beautiful and the inspiring and the thrilling Swiss Alps aboard a train from Zurich to Geneva. And then we took in the sights and sounds of London to enjoying Champions League football or soccer at London's famous Wembley Stadium. And then we're going to talk about power of faith. Now we've spoken about 2 of the rules of power of faith. We're going to speak about the 5 additional rules of faith. And then we're going to share with you the times when prayer is readily accepted. And then this culminates in power sleeping. And we'll share with you the times of the night when it's best to identify, leverage, and exploit in terms of our REM or our rapid eye movement cycle, so that when you get up in the morning, you're full of energy and you're revitalized and you're full of vitality and vigor in order to receive the abundance of opportunities that awaits you. If you haven't already done so, friends, we invite you to enroll on our website. The link is at the bottom of your screen. It's isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. Now, in the next mastery of success, which is my mastery, we're going to share with you the different types of mindsets, and then we're going to share with you how to build a championship mindset. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to share with you the characteristics of the most common mindsets, And then we'll share with you the characteristic of the championship mindset. And then ways on how you can metamorphose yourself or transform yourself from the existing mindset you are into a championship mindset. But once you reach there, the last thing that you want to happen is to settle into a comfort zone and to go backwards. So we're going to share with you the additional techniques to use in order to always remain in a championship mindset. Then the next thing we're going to go through is that we're going to go through the 4 most common fears and the 10 most common failures. And we gave you an example of while I was on the hop on hop off bus in Singapore, where I experienced the power of failure. Now, as you ascend the ladder of success, it's going to be only natural and normal that you're going to be engulfed by you're going to have certain fears and you're going to have some failures. But to increase your rate of success, you've got to double your rate of failure. And you've got to become comfortable with failure. So what we're going to do is that in addition to showing you how to identify the 4 most common fears and the 10 most common types of failures, we're going to share with you the techniques on how to nip it in the bud. And then we're going to go on a beautiful journey, which is the Friday of Good Realizations. Now, the Friday of Good Realizations is an actual physical and solo journey that I went on that unpacked a myriad of realizations for me. And what these realizations will do for you is that it will help you to provide a framework for the next 5 to 10 years of your life. Now, this culminates in the winning success mastery, which is relationship mastery. Now, have you ever found yourself in a position where you try to impress somebody, be it a colleague or boss or partner, or heaven forbid, even your mother-in-law, only to fail hopelessly at it? So what we're going to share with you is that the way to create just one strategic relationship. And then after you've identified it, by forging the most wonderful relationship. And once this is done, all your other relationships will automatically, superfluously, and instantaneously correct themselves. And then we're going to go on a beautiful journey of self-discovery. And on this journey of self-discovery, have you ever found yourself in a position that you don't know who you are? Because sometimes we're so busy empowering the plans of others, we forget who we are, or we don't know who we are at all. So what we want to do is that we want to close the gap on who we are and the amazing person that we're destined to be. And ultimately, we're going to help you to find and to unlock your inner self. And once you've found your inner self, it will help you to form a relationship with your authentic self. So while we're on this amazing journey of self-discovery, we're also going to unpack things like, what is our purpose? What is our why? And then what is our policies and our values and our vision and our mission and our unique value proposition? And then we're going to do an SW analysis. And in this SW analysis, we're going to address what our S's and what our W's are. And then we'll find out ways on how to strengthen the S's and weaken the weaknesses, so it will help us to propel us into a different stratosphere and accelerate us in the achievement of our goals, dreams, and objectives. And then we're going to tap into the 4 different types of social styles. And then we're going to help you to identify, once we've discussed the 4 social styles, what social style are you? And then once we've done that, we will help you to identify the social styles of others, so that it will help you to build more meaningful, measurable, and lasting relationships. Now, while we're on this incredible and this inspiring and this amazing journey of self-discovery, it's only natural and normal that you're going to want to set your goals and your dreams and come up with your bucket list. So we're going to share with you the tools on how to come up with this, to realize your bucket list and how to bring it to life. And we're not talking about cliched stuff. And we're going to share with you just one day of the year. Again, not cliche stuff or New Year's resolutions, but rather one specific day of the year where you can set your goals, dreams, and objectives that will help you to accelerate yourself in the achievement of your goals, dreams, and objectives. Now, scientists have found that 71% of the world's people in most working class societies around the world are divorced. That means that 7 out of 10 adults in most societies in the working class communities are divorced. Now this is a concern to us because a strong society is fabricated and underpinned by a strong home. And if we have a strong home, it will lead to a strong society. Now, this is in direct contradiction for us, where scientists have also found that 85% of the world's dollar billionaires and millionaires are happily married with more than 2 children. Now, if 85% of the world's dollar billionaires and millionaires are happily married with 2 or more children, why is it that 7 out of 10 working class adults are divorced? So you've heard those beautiful sayings, friends, that the family that eats together stays together. The family that plays together stays together, and the family that prays together stays together. So we're going to bring these techniques to life for you, and we'll show you that by praying together, playing together, and eating together, not only will you stay together, but it will help you to build a dynamic and a winning ecosystem and habitat that will collectively help you to achieve your goals, dreams, and objectives quicker and faster as a family. If you haven't done so already, we invite you to enroll on our website. The link is at the bottom of your screen. It's isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. So who's interested in this? Who wants to know how do we get in? Okay, now in the old days, what you would do is that once you invest in a solution like this, you would have to get out of your pajamas early on a Saturday morning and then brush your teeth and then drive to a convention center or hotel and then have this content, even though there's some mind-blowing content out there, but have all this content shoved down your throat for days, as long as 13 days or for hours, for as long as 13 hours in a day, and for as long as 6 days at a time. Now, the mind cannot ordinarily synthesize and digest so much information. And even if it can, it needs time to implement this information so that you can start seeing results immediately in your life, right? And you would invest in a solution like this so that you can start seeing immediate results in your life, right? I mean, after all, why then, if you're not going to see results, why invest in the first place, right? So what makes the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework workshop unique is that we've broken down our workshops into bite-sized chunks. All our workshops are held on, each workshop is only 3 to 4 hours in duration, and we've got 6 workshops. So when you register on our website and when you enroll at isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop, what you'll get immediately is you'll get a schedule for the 6-week event. You'll get 5 explosive, mind-blowing, and life-altering sessions, plus a bonus session. Now, each of these sessions will be live streamed to you. Each session is held on a Wednesday. It's broadcast, it's live streamed to you throughout the world. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. So all you need to do on a Wednesday is that get in front of your laptop, your smartphone, your tablet, or your TV, and make sure that you are ready to receive this mind-blowing and life-altering content. In addition to that, all our sessions are recorded, so in case you miss it or if you want to repeat it, you're welcome to do so. You'll receive an awesome 237-page workbook with this tactical, easy to understand and easy to implement solutions so that you can start seeing results immediately in your life. There's over 100 tactical, easy to understand and easy to implement solutions that is not rocket science, our dear friends, that will help you live a more meaningful, measurable, significant and sustainable life. Then you're going to receive the inspiring prayer of Isaac Lakhi that we've just went through now. You will receive it on MP3. You will receive a free copy of our ebook called You the Man. You will receive a gift certificate that you can redeem online in our My 2 Cents shop. Then you will receive a graduation certificate. And as a bonus, you're going to receive the 7-part plus 1 additional premium audio collection. Now, the My 2 Cents Premium Audio Collection, what that is that it's an inspiring collection of MP3s. It's an 8-part MP3 collection. Each MP3 is 30 to 45 minutes in duration. You can listen to it while out on your morning run or in the car commuting to the supermarket or home or to office. And it covers a myriad and a variety of self-help topics that will help you to achieve that life of your goals, dreams, and objectives. If you haven't already done so, our dear friends, and to get the pricing for the isaac.com/products/workshop, all you need to do is just log on to our website. All the prices are advertised there. The reason why we don't put it up on this presentation is that we are aware that a lot of our viewers and our students are situated around the world. So what we've done is that on our website, the prices will localize into your currency. So if you're in Canada, it will show in Canadian dollars. If you're in the US, it will be in US dollars. In Australia or New Zealand or Singapore or Hong Kong, it will show in those currencies, in Hong Kong dollars or Singapore dollars or Australian dollars. If you're in South Africa, it will show in rands. If you're in India, it will show in rupees. In Malaysia, it will show in ringgits, and so on. So once again, we invite you to enroll on our website. Who is this program for? Millennials. We believe that millennials are the heartbeat, the DNA, and the nucleus of the future. Now, did you know that in terms of a study commissioned by the Bank of America, it was found that 1 in 2 millennials in North America, 48% of all millennials in North America have saved up $10,000 or more. Imagine that, $10,000 or more. And that furthermore, 1 in 7, that's 15%, 15% of all millennials in North America have saved up $100,000 or more. Now, while that's sobering and comforting statistics, what happens, friends, if adversity knocks on your door the way it did on my door 20 years ago? What then? Did you know that in terms of studies by Liberty Life Insurance Company, it was found that the biggest or the fastest growing cancer in the world today is breast cancer in men? And that furthermore, that when companies and businesses and organizations, when they realign themselves and reinvent themselves and they merge and consolidate with other businesses, and we saw this during the 2008 Great Recession, and we saw this during the COVID pandemic in 2020, what happens when this happens? Who are the first to become casualties and victims of these retrenchments? Yeah, it's millennials, right? And the lives of millennials comes apart like the beads on the rosary. So what we're saying is that instead of placing reliance on big business for your everyday business, join us mere mortals for our amazing Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop. Generation X, that's my generation. Now with Generation X, we usually find ourselves in a formidable and sometimes a valiant position of having to look after the generation above us, and that's our parents, and the generation below us, and that's our children. Now while those are good things, and we always encourage you to look after your parents, because it's the best form of, and it's the most beautiful way of giving back to the world and to your parents. The problem with that is that it creates a challenge in that we're either not saving enough or not saving at all for retirement. Now, did you know that 91% of the world's people will not be able to afford retirement? Imagine that 91% of the world's people will not be able to afford retirement. Now, let's say you're 45 years old now and you want to retire at age 60. That means you've only got 15 years to retirement. That means you're only going to receive 180 more paychecks for the rest of your life, and thereafter you're not going to receive another paycheck ever again. So instead of savoring in the prospect or of having to eat from a dustbin while sitting on a pavement come your retirement years, we invite you to join us mere mortals for our award-winning, awe-inspiring, and life-altering Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework Workshop, so that come retirement, you will be able to eat like a queen from her platter while sitting on a throne. If you haven't done so already, our dear friends, we invite you to enroll at our website. The link is at the bottom of the screen. That is isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. Does anybody know who these two amazing men are? Yeah, this is Nelson Mandela and Ahmed Kadrada, arguably the two greatest men of the 20th century. Now, a few years ago, we had the privilege and the opportunity of doing a gig with Dr. Kadrada, and after the event, we received the following glowing ovation from them. And it says, we are extremely pleased with the integrity and professionalism epitomized by Mr. Lakhi. And there you have it, our dear friends, from the greatest men of the 20th century making these amazing ovations. But respectfully, we believe that there's somebody more important than Nelson Mandela and Ahmad Qutrada, and that is our mother. And though she neither belonged to the millennial nor the Generation X generations, at the age of 72, our mother got onto the Isaac Lakhi Mightiest and Success Framework workshop. And after implementing our technical, easy to understand, and easy to implement solutions, and after seeing the differences that it brought in her life, she said that my only regret was that I did not sell, or I did not get onto Isaac's highway to heaven sooner. My only regret was that I did not get onto Isaac's highway to heaven sooner. So friends, we are so comfortable and confident in the solutions that we build that in addition to selling it to the greatest men of the 20th century, we'll sell it to our own mother. But hold on, there's one more thing. We built in an additional level of security and certainty that if you're not completely satisfied and happy with the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework workshop, that after the first session, simply return the content to us and we will give you 100% refund. If you haven't done so already, we invite you to enroll at our website, that is isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. Oh yes, one more thing. Nelson Mandela said that there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than its treatment of its children. Once again, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than its treatment of our children. So inspired by this, we formed Africa Youth Club. And what Africa Youth Club is an amazing Johannesburg-based philanthropy and non-profit organization under the sterling and amazing leadership of Zenith Lakhi. And the purpose of Africa Youth Club is to champion our Vision 2025 plan. And what Vision 2025, what our Vision 2025 plan is an amazing and a lofty 10-year plan to empower 100,000 kids in rural South Africa to become the entrepreneurs and the innovators and the leaders of tomorrow. That if we get just one kid out of their sample that comes up with a cure for the HIV/AIDS endemic that is ravaging the planet and robbing the youth of the future that they so richly deserve, we can put this terrible affliction once and for all in a museum. And out of that 100,000, if we get just 100 kids that become entrepreneurs like Uncle Z, and each one comes up with a business employing 100,000 people, we can put 10 million people to work and put unemployment and poverty forever in a museum. Now, naturally, Africa Youth Club needs money in order to fund these valiant projects. So every time you buy or invest in yourself by making a purchase in the Isaac Lakhi My 2 Cents Success Framework workshop, 3.5% of your ticket sale at no cost to you automatically goes to Africa Youth Club. Cool, hey? If you haven't already done so, we invite you to enroll at isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. Our dear friends, when a miner goes mining for diamonds, usually the rock that they extract from the ground is not very appealing, it's not very attractive. But only after it's washed and polished and placed in a beautiful jewelry store in a high-end mall, only at that point does it capture the imagination of all those around it as it's showcased in their serendipitous beauty. And the same can be said for you, our dear friends, that you too are a diamond waiting to be discovered. If you haven't done so already, we invite you to enroll for the award-winning, awe-inspiring and life-altering Isaac Lakhi workshop. The workshop, we look forward to welcoming all our approved, privileged and honored students onto our workshop next Wednesday. If you haven't done so already, please register at isaac.lakhi.com/products/workshop. This is Isaac and Zenith Lakhi saying, we love you.